What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Akeem Henry. Welcome to Mission of Medicine. So we have Banky Oshodi today. He's going to be on the Mission of Medicine podcast. He's a medical student at Indiana University School of Medicine.
Yep, Indiana University School of Medicine.
Awesome. So thank you so much today, Banky, for joining us. Can you please tell the people about your background, how you got started, and why medicine?
So my background, I'm originally from the DMV. I'm from PG County, Maryland. I'm Nigerian, and I feel like a lot of people know in a Nigerian household, you have a couple options on what they feel like you can do. So it was either lawyer, engineer, or medicine. But I found myself actually gravitating towards medicine, and my older sister is in medicine too. And I just found myself loving medicine, loving science. So throughout undergrad, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't know how I was gonna go about it because I didn't have any mentors. I don't think I ever saw a black doctor until I got to medical school. So I just took it step by step, and I got my master's, and then after I got my master's, I was able to reach out to some mentors through my fraternity, and then I applied to medical school, and then I got into medical school.
What fraternity are you part of?
Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Gotcha. Where did you go to undergrad?
I went to George Mason University.
George Mason University. And what was your experience like for undergrad? And did you always knew that you wanted to become a doctor? And what was that process of being pre-med?
So I feel like for me, George Mason is big on tech. They're not really a school for the major that I was doing at that time. So it was a really small community, and I didn't know a lot about the whole process of medical school. Like in my eyes in undergrad, I thought you had to get a master's first before you applied to medical school. I didn't know about the process at all at that time. So my experience, I would say it was like I was a regular college student. MCAT or none of that wasn't even on my mind when I was in undergrad. It was just like I said, I was just taking it step by step. Okay, what's the next step?
So during undergrad, what would you say was the hardest experience of being pre-med? Like what challenges did you feel like you had to overcome?
I think the challenge that I had to overcome was just feeling inadequate. I think around a lot of my peers at that time, I kind of had the feeling that everybody knew more than me when it came to this whole medical school thing and becoming a doctor. People would ask me, what type of doctor do you want to be? And I wouldn't even be able to name a specialty. So I just felt really inadequate at times. I felt subpar, like I don't know as much as I should right now, and I'm not doing as much as I should right now. And I felt that way for, honestly, a majority of my undergrad career.
Was there strong advising? Did you have advisors that were pre-med advisors that were guiding you all along the process, or were you all on your own?
Not at all. At our school, we got a schedule of the classes you're supposed to take for 4 years if you want to graduate as a biology major or as a psych major. And then after that, the only time I spoke to my advisor was when I was about to apply for graduation. So no, there wasn't strong advising, at least for the health sciences. No, not at all.
What advice do you have for people who are currently in pre-med or in a postback or considering to go to medical school route, and they don't really have mentorship, they don't have guidance or pre-med advisors on their campus? What advice would you give them to maneuver this process? Because I feel like sometimes it can be daunting and challenging and not knowing what to do, how to do it, without having someone telling you to do it. And usually you depend on a pre-med advisor to guide you. And a lot of people don't have those resources. Yeah. And if you didn't have those resources at your school, so what advice would you give to someone who doesn't have that right now?
That's a good question. I would say two things. First, I would say, you have everything that you need inside of you. So reach out to people. It doesn't always have to be people at your school. It might not be people at your school. Mm-hmm. Reach out to people. Send cold emails. You can't fear rejection. Send cold emails. DM people on Instagram. Just try to get it by any means, because at the end of the day, there's people out there that can help you. There's people out there that want to help you. There's content creators, there's professors, there's doctors, people that want to help you get into medicine. You just have to go and find it. And then the second thing I would say is really take it step by step. You don't have to know everything on step one. You don't have to know everything on step one. Just focus on the step in front of you. What is the next thing that I have to do? Okay, you found out about the MCAT. Now, how do I study for the MCAT? And just keep going from there. It can be daunting, and I fell victim to that. But just take it step by step and reach out and do everything you can to find mentors, even if it's not at your institution.
Understandable. I definitely agree. Mentorship is very key, y'all. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and usually the people ahead of you, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't have to be well established in the field. As far as like, they don't have to be an attending physician, practice 25 years in the field. You can find someone who just recently graduated college, or someone who recently graduated medical school, or who's like a resident, like PGY 2, 3. They have wisdom, they have knowledge, they've been through the process, so they know definitely like what you're going through. So you can definitely tap in with them. And I feel like because we're in a modern age of social media, where you can reach out to people through their DMs and reach out. Some people are very receptive and responsive. They may not respond timely, but they will respond eventually, right? So you can DM them and send them a nice little professional message. Don't be inappropriate. Don't be, too casual, but let them know where you're at in your stage of your journey of pursuing medicine, and ask them for advice and see if they're willing to mentor you and whatnot. There's been people that DM'd me on Instagram wanting to mentorship. I've never met them before, but they seem like they really want this. They seem like they really want to do it. So, and they have good questions. So I answer the questions, and I sometimes offer mentorship. So you just never know who you're going to meet. So just, we're in the age of social media. You can reach out to people through their DMs, and you can see if they're responsive. During undergrad, what would you say was the most challenging pre-med course that you had?
Oh, for sure, organic chemistry one.
Everybody says
I,
org all the
I didn't even
time.
have to think about that. That popped in my head.
Yeah.
For sure, organic chemistry one. That was actually the only class I ever failed in undergrad. I failed it the first time, and I had never failed a class in my life before. Like, I was the type of student that a lot of things kind of came a little bit easier. So when I failed that class, I was just like, what is this?
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel failing that class for the first time? What was that feeling like?
I would say I found out a lot about myself. I found out that if I fall, I'm gonna get right back up, because when I failed it, I analyzed why I failed it, and I analyzed where I went wrong, and then I signed right back up for it the next semester and passed it.
I know that was a while ago. Do you remember what you did differently the second time around to kind of improve?
Um, I would say the main thing that I did differently was I got organized. There was no more. I think with a lot of my classes, especially in the first couple years of undergrad, I wasn't organized and I was able to get away with it. There's some classes where you can get away with not being organized. Submitting things at 11:59 and be like, oh, not being on top of your work throughout the week. But organic chemistry, it was one of those classes where I couldn't get away with that, and I noticed that. So I just got organized. I didn't wait till the week of to study for the exam. I would start breaking it up weeks out. And I would just say organization and getting serious overall about the class.
Makes sense. So you're now a rising third year medical student.
Yep.
What was the process like applying to medical school for you?
So my process applying to medical school, it was stressful. I had a very stressful process. I got into medical school June 1st, 2023. And if anybody's familiar with, the med school application cycle, that's
Very
like
close to the start date. Yeah.
exactly. The applications for the next year had actually already opened up. They opened up at the end of May. So, I was losing hope. I'm not gonna lie.
I was there. I can relate.
Okay.
I've also gotten acceptance very close to the orientation date.
Really?
And that was very I was losing hope. I didn't know if I was gonna get in. I remember talking to my best friend who's already about to graduate med school, about to start residency in anesthesiology. And I was talking to him bro, I don't know if I'm gonna apply next year. It's looking very dim right now. It's almost the end of this cycle, and I still haven't heard back. I'm on a waiting list and stuff. Waiting list for Meharry, waiting list for other schools, and I don't even know if I'm getting in or not. And he was like, bro, just hold your faith. Keep going. You really want this.
Yeah.
And obviously things worked out, but it's a scary moment. So definitely
scary.
talk about that experience of being in that area of gray, not knowing if it's going to work out.
It's something different than I've ever felt in my life. And you said something about holding your faith. The day that I got in, I actually I kind of made a vow to myself in my car. I was just like, no matter what happens, I'm going to just keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying at life. You know what I mean? And I feel like that was like a full circle moment, because 24 hours later I got in. It was just that whole period of waiting and not knowing if you're gonna achieve this milestone. You know, you work almost your whole life to get into medical school. You know, it's building up from for some people when they're in elementary school. So for somebody to just have your future in their hands like that, it was so scary. And you can't do anything about it. You can send letters of intent, you know, you can try and network, connect, but in reality, you can't do anything to just make them say yes. So it was really scary, but I think it was a character building moment. There was a lot of character building moments, you know, because at the same time when you're on wait lists, you're getting rejected too. There's some like, you know, you wake up one morning and you see we regret to inform you, and it's like you just have to go about your day and still focus on the other schools. You build character, and it helped me know that, oh wow, you actually really want this, you really want to do this, because you know I kept going even in the face of rejection and in the face of uncertainty.
And that's respectable. I think a lot about this journey, it really tests your character. It really tests your resilience as a person. Like, do you have that characteristic trait? Like, is that something that's a part of you? How much do you really want this? How disciplined are you, right? Like, it really tests you and is like, are you gonna fold under pressure? So yeah. As far as the MCAT, what was your experience like studying for that exam? Because that's a brutal exam.
So
A lot of if you
brutal.
don't know what the MCAT is the entrance exam to get into medical school. It's I forgot how long that exam is,
Seven
but
and a half.
7.5, and it includes organic chemistry, biochemistry, psychology, CARS, which is like comprehension and reasoning, biochemistry, biology, etc. All the sciences basically that you learn, physics that you learn in undergrad. So that exam is brutal. What was your experience like?
Brutal. It was so brutal. So actually, when I was studying for the MCAT, I was finishing up my master's program. I was working from like 6 to 11 p.m. I had a virtual job, and that would be the time that I would use to study. And then I was also a part of the soccer team at
wow.
University of Louisville. So my days just went wake up, go to practice, go to class, come back, eat, log into work, and start studying at the same time. And that was, I can still say even to now, probably one of the most stressful periods of my life, but it was also one of the periods that taught me discipline pays off.
Yeah.
Because my score from the beginning of that time period to the end, it was drastically different, you know? So I think it was brutal, and I think back, like I think I have PTSD, because when I go to that library, I still feel like palpitations in my heart.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like the MCAT is definitely a very character building time, and it really just tests like how much do you want. Because like when you get to med school, yes, it's not as hard as the MCAT because there's so much stuff on the MCAT, but the volume of information, it just continues.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
med school. So it teaches your ability to adapt to like volume and being able to the analogy that they use in med school is like drinking from water hydrant or
Yeah.
eating a full stack of pancakes or something like that when it comes to like lectures and information that you gotta learn and master. And I really feel like the MCAT kind of prepares you for that. And organic chemistry, especially, like that class is just a whole bunch of just memorizing
Yeah.
pathways, reactions, synthesis reactions and stuff. And it's just like a whole bunch of information. It's just really testing your ability to like, do you really want this? Are you able to memorize this information? It's so much information. And that's just what med school is about. It's just a lot of information.
Yeah.
So when you finally got into med school, what was your first year like? What was that experience like? What classes were you taking? How did you maneuver? How did you get adjusted? I know those are a lot of questions, but you can kind of just
Mesh it all
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I got into med school, it got a different type of hard. You know, I had to adjust again. So at Indiana University, we take 9 weeks of human structure, which is anatomy. It's just straight anatomy. We're going into anatomy lab every single day, and we're learning everything about the human body. And that was such a hard 9 weeks because I didn't have any free time. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know that I didn't know how to study until I got to med school, and I actually had to study. I didn't know how to study. So some of the things I was getting away with, I couldn't get away with anymore. Like I had to hold myself accountable. But as I progressed through my first year, I feel like with the help of friends and reaching out to tutors, I was able to really develop real study habits and, develop kind of a formula for how I was going to study for exams and how I was going to digest and actually retain information. So I'll say once first year was wrapping up, I really felt like I had a good plan, you know what I mean? And I carried that into second year.
What did you feel like was the most like differences between first year and undergrad?
Oh, the volume of information. I would say like in undergrad, what I learned in maybe a whole semester, like the content in a class, you're learning that in like 3 weeks in medical school. Like it's just so much, and just learning how to memorize, not memorize, but learning how to consume that much information in such a short period of time. It was so hard. Like it was so hard. So I'll say that, yeah, that was definitely the biggest difference for me.
So how did you adapt? Like, what did you do differently to prepare for that volume?
I'll say the main thing was just holding myself accountable every day and chopping the information up into small pieces every single day. I would say in undergrad, let's say you have an exam on Friday, you can start studying on Monday and pass the exam. But in med school, like if you have an exam that Friday, you better have been studying since like last month. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you got to just do it day by day, because I feel like that's the best way that the human brain can really digest and retain the information to where you can answer a question that isn't just directly asking you about the concept.
Right. That makes sense. Are you a Anki guy, or you are more so just like read the book and retain and do multiple passes, or do you use like type of system that helps you maintain, because it's so much information. It's like you can learn it for a test, but several months later you're learning a new organ system. You're learning another new organ system. How do you keep up on the information that you learned already?
Yeah, so to keep up long term, Anki. I think that's like the gold standard, at least for me. I actually didn't do Anki for the first part of first year, but then I started it in the second part of my first year, and I just never went back. But to learn the information, I definitely am just a read it from the book guy. Like first aid, I've read that cover to cover. I love that. I love that book. So I think I use a combination of the two. Anki is kind of more so I retain it, remember it, and don't just forget, little easy facts. But first aid is when like I'm gonna learn the pathway. I'm just gonna read it in first aid.
What Anki deck do you use to kind of maintain through a med school?
I use blanking on the name right now. I don't know why.
There's two major ones. You have OnKing.
Anking. Yeah.
You use OnKing?
Yeah, I
Okay.
use Anking. I don't know. I blanked on the name, but yeah, I use Anking.
All right. Yeah, so OnKing is pretty like standard. Like a lot of people use OnKing. There's a new one called Nemesine. Nemesine is based off of the first aid itself. So like it has sections, like its tags are broken down by the sections of the first aid. Obviously OnKing is like supreme. So like it's broken down by all the third parties, whether you use a boot camp or Boards and Beyond, first aid, all the other ones. So like OnKing is pretty standard. But that makes sense. In regards to first aid, I know there's like controversy around like it's a review book, right? Like it's not necessarily something that if you don't know anything, you just want to go to it first, because it's like bulleted points of just high yield information and mnemonics.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Like, should someone use first aid as their primary resource, or should they supplement it with something else? And how did you use that?
Yeah, so I would say that I use first aid, but if there's something in first aid that they don't go into enough detail in, or that I'm not understanding, then I go to Boards and Beyond. So I use a lot of Boards and Beyond too. So I think first aid, especially for your second year, maybe when you're taking a second pass of the information, or when you're studying for STEP, I think first aid is like great, because at that point you've at least seen the information once. So now those bullet points they can literally jog your memory in insane ways. But I would say, like, if you're a first year and you're taking your first pass of the information, I would still recommend first aid, but I would also recommend supplementing it with either your lectures, Boards and Beyond, or something that just teaches you it in a more slow fashion that, you can really digest it, and then going back to first aid and, verifying it.
That makes sense. During medical school, Did you realize yourself to be more of like a content person to prep for exams or doing more practice questions?
So I thought I was a content person at the beginning. I thought, but I don't. To me, nothing beats practice questions, because when I started just focusing on practice questions to prep for the exams, my scores went up insanely. I think that practice questions, it's like getting up practice shots. You know what I mean? I think content review, it's like you're working on the fundamentals, but practice questions are you're really practicing. I guess you could say game situations. You're really putting yourself in that position, and even some practice questions, maybe like one, not a lot at all, but maybe like one or two can show up on the exam. So I would say practice questions now for sure.
Okay. And what's your primary resource for practice questions?
So our school provides us with a TrueLearn QBank, and then UWorld for second year. I didn't use UWorld in the first year. I also use in the first year I used Lippincott. I used BRS. Um,
BRS is Board Review Series.
yeah, and yeah, I'll say Lippincott and BRS were big for my first year. Those are the two large ones for my first year. Then UWorld for my second year.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I feel like oftentimes they don't try to like throw UWorld at you the first year because it's like very high level questions,
Exactly.
very expert level. Like you need to have more context and knowledge and a foundation for UWorld questions. But I do feel like UWorld is pretty supreme in regards to their questions and how they prepare you for boards. So it's definitely a good mix.
Sure.
Quick question: did you for background question, did you take a postback or do a master's before going to med school?
Yeah, I did a master's. I did a master's in physiology at University of Louisville.
Okay. And what was that experience like, and why did you decide to do that?
I decided to do that because honestly, like I just felt like that was the next step, like bachelor's, master's, then MD, and that program in particular, it had a lot of things that I liked to see in it. And my experience it was great. Like that program prepared me for the MCAT so well. We went over biochem in that program, physiology went throughout the whole body. It prepared me for the MCAT so well, and it even helped me once I got to medical school with some units on physiology. So I would recommend doing something like that because it helped me so much. It helped me a lot.
I know there's a lot of people who are career changers. They might be in a different field and now want to pursue medicine, and they have to go through getting their prereqs and might have to do a postback, or someone might not have done as well as they wanted to and had a high enough GPA in undergrad, so they're considering a postback or a certificate program. What advice would you give them in regards to finding the right program for themselves?
Um, I would say, for one, when you're in a post-bac program, like I think the leadership of the program is really important. You want people that actually want to see you achieve your goals. You want people that are actually supporting you to get to that next level. So I would say not you shouldn't just be blindly picking one based on, the first place that lets you in. You should be really doing your research on these programs, speaking to prior students that attended these programs, and seeing how their seeing how their experience was, and seeing where they are now, what they're doing, because I think that's really important. I speak highly of the program I did because it really helped me and everybody that was in it. So yeah, I would say do your research on the program, because every program isn't made the same. Some are a lot different than others. And then I think the last little piece of advice is going to a program that has a medical school, attached to it. I think that's extremely helpful. So like I went to University of Louisville for my master's, and they have a medical school, and I was able to be taught by a lot of the medical school staff. They would give me tips, and you build rapport and you build relationships through that. So I would say that's another thing you should keep in mind.
That makes sense. Yeah. Were there any particular challenges that you felt in med school you were prepared for because of the master's program?
Yeah, I would say that some of the organ systems, the physiology of them, it can get really like complicated. I think that just having a first pass of that information in my master's, it helped me a lot. It helped me so much just understanding kind of the flow of things. And that's something that we spent like 4 weeks on. And during that unit, I felt like I had already seen this before, and I did great in it.
Makes sense. Is there a particular subject area in medicine that, since you studied for the first 2 years, that you're like, okay, this is what I'm kind of leaning towards? Like, what specialty, anything? Like, has that come clear to you yet, or
Yeah, I think I'll say neurology. You know,
neurology?
specifically sports neurology. I love neurology. Yeah, I'm
What
definitely.
about it drew you in?
I would say just I like the flow of how I learn it, and how natural it comes for me to just map out those type of pathways, and even just with the diagnosis, I like the thought process that goes into it. I'm not having to kind of just like memorize and remember something. Like, I can kind of trace it, like, okay, this is happening on this side of the body, and I just love doing that. I'm a deep thinker, so
Mm.
if I feel like I can think deep into every single patient situation, like, that's like a dream come true for me.
I know you had mentioned that. I know you had mentioned that you played soccer prior. What is it like balancing med school and extracurricular activities or things that you do outside of medicine?
It can get hard. I think before medical school, I was a very outgoing person, talkative. Like, I had a lot of extracurricular activities going on. In my first year of medical school, because I didn't know how to balance it well, a lot of that stopped. And, my main focus was just, I need to pass this next exam. But I quickly found out, especially in my second year of medical school, that some of those extracurriculars, indirectly, I feel like they helped me pass. They helped me do better. They helped me pass, because sometimes you need to get your mind off of what's going on in front of you. Sometimes you need to spend time with friends and family. They can ground you and just give you different perspectives on things. They can make you have a clearer thought process. So I think balancing it for me now, it kind of just looks like, at this point, I know the amount of work I have to put in to do well, and I don't touch that time. I keep that time to the side for school. But in my free time, I definitely try and spend time with family, friends, and just make experiences that will make me happy.
I mean, I know you just touched on like family, friends, and experiences that make you happy. What particularly do you do to de-stress? Because med school is a very high stress, high demanding field in regards to just studying, putting in the work. Like, you can just go, 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 but you can burn out as well, right? So how
Yeah.
do you reset?
Well, I think it looks different for everybody, but for me, resetting, I would say, is I take a weekend and I go out with my friends, whether that's to a concert, a gathering, anything. I'll go out with my friends. I'll have fun the way that I know that I want to have fun, the way that I was having fun before medicine. And I'm not a med student for a weekend. I'm not talking about med school. I'm not worrying about this email. I'm just
We have those events. We have events and parties, and we're like, "Are you talking about school?
yeah.
Like, we're not talking about school here. Like, it's no school zone here. We're not trying to be stressed. No,
Exactly.
no school talk."
Exactly. I don't even, if somebody asks me what I do, I just say I'm in school. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
take my mind off of it, because I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's very easy for being a med student to become your personality,
Yes.
and just it to consume your whole life. And I was one of those people that said I would never let that happen. But for a little bit, it did happen. Like, that's all I was doing. Like, if I'm posting on social media, it's me studying. It's just my laptop and and a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I took a step back and I said, wait, I know who I am. Let me get back to what I like to do.
What are some of the, you mentioned about you studying your laptop? What's some of the study tools that you use, that you implement into your workflow, that you found best for you?
Yeah, so I would say the study tools that I use my school laptop. I use a second monitor. So I think that helps with my productivity a lot. My laptop and a second monitor, being able to maybe have practice question on this screen and first aid on this screen, it helps a lot. I use my Anki clicker. That helps a lot.
Shout out to the clickers, bro.
Yeah.
My clicker got some work done to it. Clicking through them
It,
cards.
it helps. It helps, And then I download an Anki on my phone.
That also helps for the clutch. It's down at the bottom. It's Anki's down at the bottom bar, like main screen.
Yeah.
I'm clicking that joint and I'm going through them cards, my review cards. Like, it's right there.
Yep.
It's yeah.
Yep. It helps, And even just when you might be on scrolling on social media, you can just get through some cards. Like that helped me when I was studying for step one. And then I also use a tablet. It's called a Remarkable. It's kind of like a paper tablet. I use that to take notes my first year and second year.
Why that over a iPad?
So I didn't want something that I could get distracted on. I feel like I could download a lot of things on the iPad, but the Remarkable is strictly just for taking notes, and like you can import PowerPoints, you can import it, you can basically do everything an iPad can do, but just no apps and social media and anything like that. And I think it helped me a lot, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. As a Black man, Nigerian man in medicine, what has your experience been like?
I would say my personal experience is it was very lonely at first. I'm not gonna lie. Out of all my friends, I'm the only one in medical school. I don't have any close friends that I knew before medical school, that pursued medicine. And um yeah, it was lonely. It was really lonely. But I would say recently I've been taking my own advice and I've been going out and I've been reaching out to people and putting myself out there and putting myself around other Black men in medicine. Uh, and I think it's so fulfilling now. Even at AMEC, just seeing a bunch of other Black men, Black women in medicine that everybody in this room has put in a certain amount of work to get where we are. It was so fulfilling and it was a great weekend.
What advice do you have to young Black men that want to pursue medicine that are maybe in high school or might be starting their first year in college? What advice would you have for them?
It starts now. Like you might be thinking that, oh, I don't have to lock in until junior year when I'm about to take the MCAT, or I don't have to lock in until college because I'm just a high schooler. Trust me, it starts now. The earlier you start, the better. The more you put yourself out there, the more you put yourself around other people in medicine, the better. You want to get a head start on this stuff because if I'm gonna be completely honest, it's a very competitive field. Like just getting into medical school is very competitive. The acceptance rate in medical school is anywhere from 1% to 7% in the United States. That's not high at all. It starts now, and this isn't to scare you, but it's just to make you aware of something that I wasn't aware at that time. It starts now.
No, I definitely agree. I feel like when you step your foot on the campus and you know that you want to be pre-med and you want to start, you got to find the right people. You got to find the right resources. You want to start putting your best foot forward, get involved, whether it's leadership, volunteering. You got to make sure all those boxes are checked. And also, you just got boxes need to be checked, but you don't want to be a box checker.
Yeah.
Like that's like boxes need to be checked, but you don't want to be a box checker because in undergrad, I remember there were things that I was like very passionate about, like leadership, diversity in medicine. So I was very involved in my pre-med society that was like geared towards underrepresented minorities in medicine. But there was also individuals that were in the organization that you could just tell easily their motive. They just wanted to get into med school. They want to get into professional school, so they're just doing a thing. You don't want to just do a thing. You want to be passionate about that thing, right?
Exactly.
You want to be able to tell a story, tell a reason why. You want your application to medical school, application to professional school, whatever the case may be, to tell a story about the things that you're passionate about, the things that you're involved in, and you want it to make sense. If you're doing this club over here that doesn't align with this club over here, and you're doing this initiative and that initiative, and none of them make any sense, it's like, okay, this person just seems like they're jumping from thing to thing and not necessarily consistent or really have a purpose or a passion about something.
Yeah.
So I think as you're in undergrad, it's important to, like you said, it starts now, but start aligning to things that matches your values, matches the things that you're most passionate about, so you can be able to show up on interview day when that interviewer is asking you a question, that you'll be able to talk passionately about that topic, and you can talk about your experiences to solidify your passion around that topic. You know what I mean?
That's very on that point. I would like that's so important. be genuine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think that that's something in medicine that we're lacking a lot.
Yeah.
Is just genuine people. You know, when you're reaching out to your mentor,
Yeah.
when you're trying to get those connections, be genuine. You know, just like you said, don't just do it to check a box or what can you do for me and then I'll go about my way. Be genuine, make genuine connections. Those will take you so much farther.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
As someone who did a postback, I did a postback as well. I know you did a postback. What has your experience been? It's considered a non-traditional route because, the traditional route is 4 years of undergrad, then go straight into med school, which is another 4 years. Obviously, you didn't do that. So did you feel like you weren't going to be prepared enough, or did you feel any type of way of being non-traditional and pursuing medicine? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I would say for me, maybe my ignorance worked in my favor, but I felt more prepared because I was like, I have one more year of school than, these people have. I dove into this subject. I felt more prepared. I felt like I was coming in strong. I know a lot of people, especially because you might have been out of school for longer than these people who were just an undergrad, 3-4 months ago, might feel inadequate, but I just felt more. I felt more prepared, and I felt very prepared because I think it shows that we wanted it really really bad. We were willing to, okay, we're not gaining anything from doing the post-bac. Just on surface level, it was to get to a higher goal.
Right.
So yeah, I felt really prepared.
Why content creation? Why did you get involved in content creation? If you guys don't know, Banky has social media content pages on Instagram, TikTok, and he makes med school content. Why did you get involved in starting to post?
So I got involved with content creation because when I was studying for the MCAT and when I was applying to med school, I didn't see one person that was a med school content creator or medicine content creator that I could relate to and be like, I see myself in that person. So I wanted to be that person for the people behind me. I wanted to be, I want to bring a different personality. That's why at the beginning my channel was named The Uncensored Med. I wanted to bring a different personality. I wanted to bring my unique personality, to the forefront and just inspire anybody that, wants to come into medicine. And yeah, that's why I started it.
Was there any reluctance around that? I feel like there's a lot of people that want to get involved in doing content, wanting to create med school content or professional school content, documenting their journey, but they feel there's they may not have the right tools or the camera, the mic, or they just don't feel confident enough, or they might be worried about people judging them, or they don't want to document their failures or their success or whatnot because they don't want people in their business. How did you overcome those type of obstacles or challenges?
I would say in terms of, the reluctancy to post because of people judging me, I kind of just I weighed the pros and the cons. Okay, so a con, people might judge me. A pro, I might literally change somebody's life. So I was kind of like, I think changing somebody's life is a lot more important than people judging me, and that's how it just worked in my head. And then after that, I did not care about anybody judging me because if I can change somebody's life, sure, I'll take people judging me.
Usually when people see content creators, they're like, oh, this is a very confident person. Oh, they have everything going on right. Like, they got it together. Oh, my life is not right. I shouldn't document. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. Would you say that you were always a confident individual, that you had high self-esteem, that you just, okay, I'm just going to do this?
I would say throughout my life, no. But I think in the past couple of years, I would definitely say I did have the confidence to go out there and just say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I think what helped me build it was just positive self-talk. Just reassuring myself you've done this, and you can do this. It's not just gonna stop where you are right now. So yeah, I would say, especially since I've started this page, I've just been building my confidence and building my confidence because at this point, as content creators, especially medical content creators, there's people that look up to us. So I want to be inspiring for them. So that just motivates me.
That's got you. How do you stay How do you stay motivated to make content? Because there's some times where it's just like school's so stressful, bro. You just like, all right, I gotta just focus on this academic stuff. I don't have time to do content creation. How do you work it in? How do you keep consistent? Because honestly, to build a community, to build an actual good following on social media, so many people are making a living off of social media because they have a good following. You have to be consistent. How are you able to do that and balance med school?
Yeah, I mean, I love doing it. We talked earlier about like, what keeps us grounded throughout med school. Content creation keeps me grounded. It makes me feel like a person. I can just turn on the camera, be myself,
Yeah.
and people will comment. I'll comment back. People DM me.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like a person again. So, I love doing it. And yes, school can be very demanding. And I just find ways around that. I might record a lot of videos on one day and post them.
Yeah, you gotta create systems around this thing, like batch create, like
Yeah,
batch
batch
content.
content, yep.
Like just all right. One day I'm gonna sit down, and make 10 videos, and we're gonna schedule them out.
Yeah.
We're gonna schedule them out. Everybody's like, "Oh dang, did you post this today?" I'm like, "No, I made this last week."
Uh-huh.
Like, it's just being scheduled out. So yeah, you gotta be smart with it. You gotta use your time wisely, and I feel like social media allows you, if you have a good system in place, you can really set it up in a way that it's not taking too much of your time.
Exactly.
A lot of people just don't know that yet.
Yeah.
You just got to get started. And for people who are reluctant to post their first video because they're afraid of being judged, or they feel like they don't have the right equipment, or they just don't feel like it's the right time, what advice do you have for them?
The advice I would have for them is, when you get on TikTok, you see people like Keith Lee. He just has a phone in his car reviewing food. You know what I mean? You don't need you don't need a lot of equipment. You just need your personality, and people are gonna gravitate towards your personality. You're a unique person. There's a community waiting for you. So just don't freak yourself out. Don't think about it too much. Post it. Yeah, post your content. Post that content.
Where do you see your content and your platform going in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see yourself?
In the next 5 to 10 years, this is like, in terms of the content I make, I don't plan on stopping it. I see it just inspiring a lot of minorities around the nation, and honestly around the world, to not only pursue medicine but just pursue their dreams. I make a lot of motivational content, when it comes to medicine, or just life in general. I just see me inspiring more and more and more people, picking up more and more traction.
That's good. Lastly, do you have any advice or tips for individuals that want to pursue the career of medicine in med school? What's your last advice that you want to give?
I would say my advice is, make sure you really, really want to do it, especially when you're in undergrad, because unfortunately, a lot of what I see is, people falling out of love with it, or realizing it's not something that they want to do, either after they graduate or at the end, and they just feel like they're stuck to it. You know what I mean? And they either might have to, pivot and stay in school for a lot longer than they anticipated, or they just reluctantly try and apply to medical school. And let me tell you something, getting into medical school is not something you're going to do on accident, or, you know what I mean, with half effort. You have to want to do it, because you're going to get knocked down. So make sure that you want to do this in your heart.
That's real. That's real. In the climate of medicine and people applying to medical school, I know you said knowing deep down inside that you want to do this in your heart. Sometimes you might know deep down inside that you want to do this in your heart, but then there's other external factors that might be in the way that are hurdles.
Yeah.
For example, I know our government is in the process of creating a bill that might hinder individuals' ability to pay for med school through federal student loans. What are your thoughts on that? I know you recently created a TikTok that went viral about that. What are your thoughts on that now, as that has kind of developed a little bit more?
I'm gonna echo some of the things I said in the TikTok. I feel like I feel like it's an attack on the American dream. I feel like they're trying to prevent mobility between classes, because student loans, it's those are literally dreams for people. Like that people's dreams are tied in student loans. You know, and most people cannot afford just to pay for undergrad, masters, and especially med school, right out of pocket. A student loan is you literally betting on yourself. It's you saying that I believe that I'm going to get this education, and then I'm going to be able to get a great job where I'm going to be able to pay this back and even more and be a successful person in life. You know, because everybody doesn't have the um uh, the the capacity to just pay for things upright, you know. So I think that them trying to take away grad plus loans and put a cap on subsidized loans, it's just it's never been more obvious that there's an attack going
Yeah.
on lower class citizens.
It's so interesting to me because it's like there's already a shortage, right? Like there's already a shortage of doctors predicted in 2020-30. And you want to add more obstacles. You want to add more challenges and hurdles that folks from disadvantaged backgrounds, people who don't have the financial backing, to now consider not becoming doctors. They want to go down a less resistant pathway
Yeah,
because it's like, all right, money is going to be an issue here. You're just going to continue to perpetuate and exacerbate the issue.
exactly.
So it's unfortunate that I feel like the lawmakers, I don't know if they have some type of what's the word I'm looking for? They have some type of
Like vendetta towards.
not vendetta, but I think some type of tie to the banks where like they will benefit from individuals taking out personal loans instead of federal loans. Like, because a lot of these politicians, they have money in investments in different things
Exactly.
that they can benefit from, so they can make policies that benefit their back pockets. So like if we take out personal loans through their banks that they're tied to, that they're going to benefit from, then obviously their family's eating.
Exactly.
But we're taking out higher interest loans.
Higher
right?
interest loans that will keep you in debt for so long.
Exactly. Like this field, like, and I feel bad for folks that want to go into, that have a strong interest in primary care, that have a strong interest in pediatrics. These are the specialties that are unfortunately on the lower tier of salaries far as medicine, and individuals are not even looking at that because they feel like they're not going to earn enough power to get out of debt in time to actually live a life. I feel like medicine is it's a career where you're sacrificing so much that when you take so long to get in, and then now you have to take out loans to get through, and then now you have to pay back your loans, you're going to want to go into a specialty that makes a lot of money to pay back those loans, so you can finally start living life and to actually enjoy your life that you sacrificed so much of your 20s and early 30s for, right? So I feel bad for folks that are interested and don't have the support, that want to go into primary care and those specialties that are don't have a higher earning potential as some of the subspecialties.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really those folks and those specialties that's going to really take a hit when it comes to this, if this bill is approved.
And I hope it's not, because it shows how important representation is at every level. At every level, a lot of the politicians that are making these laws, that are trying to put these bills in place, they're not cognizant of the struggles of the everyday person, of the struggles of a lower income family. You know, they don't know what it's like to be in that situation, and representation just matters, not only in the medical field, but just in the government too. You know, and I just think like I learned that through the medical field, how much representation matters. I think we say it a lot, but a lot of people don't elaborate on it, of how, like, why it matters. You know, people who, if somebody can represent you and they're in a higher position than you, they're in a position of authority, it can trickle down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can trickle down with the laws. It can trickle down with the way that people talk, and it just, yeah, it matters a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like in regards to this whole recent bill change and everything, I truly feel like there's not enough representation far as individuals who have a political background that are in medicine, in Congress, lobbying and being able to support and to advocate on behalf of medical students. Because if there were, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Because why would you cap the federal cap alone at $150K
Exactly.
when the average medical student is already in debt way more
Exactly.
deeper than that in
It's
Fed
like
loans.
1.5 years.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, are you guys paying attention? Like, do y'all really know what's going on out here?
Exactly.
Y'all making up numbers or what? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Clearly, there's some type of misrepresentation going on.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you. So shout out to individuals that are pursuing MD, MPHs, or MD government / I don't know what the government degrees are, but like I know there's people that are trying to do policy type of degrees along with your MD to try to go on to Capitol Hill to advocate. I think that's going to be very beneficial in the long term because clearly there seems to be a disconnect and we need to close that gap.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this interview between Banky and I. This was a long time coming. He's a content creator up and coming in the medical school space. I really want you all to get to know him on a deeper level, to see his journey and background and just, where he's at and where he's going. Thank you so much for coming on, bro.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great time. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.